Why is white matter white? If you've ever sliced through someone's brain, firstly, why? Why are you doing that? Secondly, you might have noticed that there are more than one colour in the brain. We have grey matter and we have white matter. Now, grey matter is where all of the cell bodies are. These are the bits of our brain cells that contain the DNA and make proteins. These are the computers of the brain that do the really complex processing stuff. But our brains aren't wireless, and we need to be able to communicate between these different computer systems in the brain to convey interesting or difficult or complex messages. In order to do this, we have wires. These are the axon of our brain cells, and these wires are what make up the white matter, but that still doesn't answer the question, why is it white? The answer is fat. Now, what is so much fat doing in our brain? This is a good question. Our brain cells communicate via electrical signals. Very, very small electrical signals, but electrical signals nonetheless. And if you know anything about electricity, you know that one way to speed up an electrical current is to insulate. And that is what the fat in our brains is doing. This fat specifically is called myelin, and it wraps around the wires of our nerve cells. And this speeds up the electrical currents that are travelling between different parts of our brain. It speeds it up about 100 times faster. What we have is myelin wrapped around our nerve cells, and so instead of the electrical signal having to travel slowly all the way along, what it can actually do is it can jump in between the myelin. This is the gaps in between the myelin are called nodes of Ranvier, which I think is a rather cool name. And this process of jumping is called saltatory conduction, and it's massively important for speedy transmission between different parts of our brain. If you think about thinking and how fast we need to think sometimes, imagine it being 100 times slower. That's why myelin is so important. I'll give you a couple of examples. Firstly, let's talk about the biggest white matter structure in the brain. It's called the corpus callosum. Here is a picture of the corpus callosum, and this is a huge bundle of these wires that connect each side of our brain. Kind of important for both sides of our brain to know what's going on in the other. Next example, which is pertinent to our situation here, about here in my brain, in the frontal lobe, I have an area called Broca's area. This is really important for me to be able to produce language as I am doing now. A little bit further back in the temporal lobe is an area called Wernicke's area. This is really important for our ability to understand and process language, like reading the captions on this video or listening to me talking. It's really important that these two areas of the brain can communicate with each other. And we have faster communication because of this fatty covering of our nerve cells. In my next video, I am going to be talking about demyelinating diseases, diseases that affect this fatty covering of our nerve cells. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about MS, multiple sclerosis, so stay tuned for that one if you want to know more. But for now, bye-bye.